from our bogies, we go on to the next solid. I've actually left my example in here. Yes, it is. Now, I do this show loads, and I always say, so what do you think we're going to talk about next? Some of the answers I've got are amazing. Sausages was one of them. Cake was another one. And you do have to remind them that, no, we're talking about the body. So next I'm going to make some poo. But I'm not just going to make poo, that would be gratuitous and wrong. So we're going to follow the food through our digestive system until it comes out the other end. So I'm going to start off with this bowl, and we're going to imagine that this bowl is my mouth. And I'm going to use this masher, and this is going to be my teeth. And I'm rather peckish today. So I am going to have some beans on toast. So I've got some bread here, and I'm just going to break that up in there. And I have some baked beans. So we're just going to pour them in there as well. There you go. And once more, I can give you directions to making this. It's brilliant. The kids are hooked for every second. And we're going to give that a bit of a mash. So I'm just going to mash that up. I'm going to add some water, because we have saliva in our mouths as well. So a bit of water here. And what the saliva does is, it does several things. It helps us, first of all, it's got enzymes in it. So they help to break the food down as soon as we start chewing it. And obviously our teeth help out a little bit as well. And then the water, or the saliva, helps us ball our food up so that it's easier to swallow. And when we swallow it, it travels down a tube here called the esophagus to our stomach, which is about here. It takes about 2 hours to do that. So it's quite a long time. And once it gets to our stomach, I'm going to have floss later, I can see. Once it gets to our stomach, our body adds 2 more things. First of all, it adds stomach acid. For that, I'm going to use vinegar. Pour some of that in here. And then it adds some more enzymes, a more concentrated amount of enzymes. So I'm going to put some washing powder in to represent the enzymes. And what these 2 things is they break the food down even further. They start getting the nutrients and the good stuff out of the food so that we can make use of them as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to give that a quick stir. This will start looking horribly familiar to you in a little while. So I usually show the children this at this point. If you can see that. They do point out to me that it looks very much like vomit. And actually it is exactly that. So at this point I tell the children that that's what it is. When we're unwell, our body wants to get rid of the bad stuff as quickly as possible. And so it'll try and get rid of anything that's in our stomach. So the muscles will contract, so it will push, and all the food will travel back up the esophagus at a much quicker rate than it went down. But we're feeling quite healthy today, so our food's not coming back up, and it's going to travel on to a long zigzaggy tube that goes across here. And this is the small intestine. In the small intestine, we have lots of little finger-like bits called villi. What they do is they act like sponges. They increase the surface area so we can soak up as much of the good stuff out of our food as possible. So I'm just going to use this sponge. I'm going to squeeze that. What they do is it sends the blood straight through to our blood, sends the food or the nutrients through to our bloodstream so it can get to our muscles and our organs as quickly as possible. And then the kids can run and jump and play and do all the things they do nice and quickly. So it's what helps us move and gives us energy. Tissue. So that leaves us with something that looks like that. Okay? What happens next, while our food is in the small intestine, is our body adds something called bile. Now, bile is green, like my washing up liquid here, and it does the same thing. It breaks down all the fats in our food so that they're easier to digest. So I'm just going to put a squirt of that in there. Obviously, I normally force the children to do all this. Far easier. I don't like making such a mess. And we're going to stir that in. And this process, as with the stomach and the esophagus, takes about 2 hours. So each bit takes about 2 hours. Once it's had enough of being in our small intestine, it travels on to another tube. I usually ask the children what this tube is. Again, I've had some beautiful answers from them. Willie was one of those answers. I put them right rather quickly. And the next tube is the large intestine, obviously. And the large intestine does one major thing. It acts like a sieve. Our body needs lots and lots of liquid. So we're about to get the rest of the liquid out of our food from our large intestine. So I'm just going to pour that in there. Come on, that'll do. And I'm just going to give that a quick stir and get as much moisture out as we can. Yeah, again, this takes about 2 hours. There we go, it might take me that long. There we go. So it's about 2 hours, that'll do the trick for now. And from there, our food carries on to the rectum. Now, I said about the bogey waiting room earlier. That's pretty much what the rectum is. It's the poopy waiting room. And 2 things happen while our food is waiting there. First of all, it gets its smell. And it gets its smell from the bacteria that live in there. And the bacteria are like tiny little minuscule babies. All they do is eat and poop. So they eat our food as it comes through, and then they poop it straight back out. And it's that poop that makes our poop smell. Without them, our poop would obviously smell of roses, but we wouldn't be able to squeeze it out, and so we would die. So we really do need them there. We can cope with smelly poop if it means we stay alive. The second thing that happens in our rectum is our poop gets its colour. And it gets its colour because we send through other waste there. It's not just food, it's dead skin cells and organ cells and dead red blood cells. And it's the red blood cells that give our poop its colour. So they're a browny colour, kind of like scabs. So I'm going to put some hot chocolate powder in there. Suddenly it smells so much better up here. Yeah. And I'm going to give that a good old stir in. Okay, so just for our purposes today, I'm going to use this bag as our rectum, so that we can see that there, it was split already. And what we then do is I get the children to squeeze it out. Because you always get that feeling, and when you need the loo, you get it round about here. That feeling that tells you you're going to have to go soon. I always used to get it in maths, and there's a nice little smell that usually accompanies it. And at that point you have to get to the loo really quick, get a bit of tissue in there, because splashback is a terrible thing. And we give it a squeeze. So the muscles around the rectum now start to contract. And that's when we release the waste. Hey. And the deed is done.
Yes, yes.